Your son is missing."
Had she heard the headmaster of Kingswell Academy correctly? Mrs. Ginger Reed, known by some as Lady Gold, stared at the black receiver of her rotary desk phone and then spoke into it. "I beg your pardon, Mr. Boyle."
"Your son, Samuel, is missing."
Ginger blinked at Scout's formal name. "What do you mean, missing? Did he miss a lesson? Perhaps he's late back from a walk. You know how lads lose track of time." The headmaster released a sigh.
"No, madam. His bed wasn't slept in. His things are gone. He must have packed a knapsack after the evening inspection and sneaked away after dark. I'm terribly sorry. We do everything we can to rein in our most troubled—"
"Most troubled?"
"Yes, well, you are aware that young Master Reed has had difficulty adjusting."
Ginger and her husband Basil, a chief inspector at Scotland Yard, had decided to send Scout to boarding school in January. They probably should have sent him the autumn before, but they'd only adopted the lad 2 years earlier. After spending his childhood on the streets of London, barely cared for by an ailing uncle, it seemed rather too much to expect him to jump into a uniform and blend in with the children of the elite when he'd barely just stopped dropping his H's. It was only after Scout's uncle had died and his older cousin Marvin Elliot had joined the Royal Navy, an alternative to the prison he was headed to, had Ginger not intervened, that Scout became Ginger's ward. Then, once she and Basil had married, they adopted Scout. All had gone swimmingly until the birth of Rosa, after which Scout felt he'd lost his position of favour with his parents. The timing of sending Scout to boarding school was unfortunate, but purely coincidental. In no uncertain terms, she and Basil hadn't sent their son away to remove him from their family. Of course not. They sent him for the same reason all parents sent their children to school, to give them the best education and opportunity in life. Sadly, Scout hadn't seen it that way, despite Ginger and Basil's reassurances. "Have you asked his friends?" Ginger asked. "Surely someone must know where he is." Another imperceptible sigh.
"Master Reed has had, difficulties making friends, madam. He refused to engage in activities and do anything to integrate himself with his peers."
Ginger's chest squeezed with worry and regret. They should have taken their son's unhappiness more seriously. "I see," she said. "Have the police been notified?"
"Yes, madam."
"Please do keep me informed. My husband and I shall do what we can to find him on our end. Hopefully he's finding his way home." In her study, Ginger sunk into the chair at the large desk that had once belonged to her father. She stared blankly at his portrait, painted when he was younger than she was now. Scout knew how to take care of himself on the streets. If any child—at 13 he could hardly be called a child much longer—could make his way on his own, it would be him. His safety was of concern to Ginger, but her heart broke that her son had felt unloved and unwanted, so much so that he'd taken this drastic step. Yes, he had the ability to survive, but that didn't make his situation less dangerous. In fact, if his cousin Marvin were any indication, it would most certainly lead him to a life of crime. As if sensing Ginger's distress, Boss, Ginger's Boston Terrier, roused himself from his bed by the fireplace and went to her side. She patted his little black and white head as he laid his chin on her knee. "Oh, Bossy, what has our boy done?" Ginger was about to lift the receiver when it rang. Basil's voice came through, loud and clear. "Ginger?" Ginger pictured Basil's worried face, the deepening lines around attractive hazel eyes, greying temples growing greyer with this new concern. "I just spoke to Mr. Boyle," she returned. "Scout's run away," Basil said. "I've heard from the local police."